So, a new world has given birth to new conflicts, arising as they had from a multidimensional world. These conflicts were marked by complicated aspects and elevated levels of chaos. The New Earth Federation had regarded those living in space as the enemy and adopted a hostile posture towards the plants and the moon race. Though hopes were initially high for a peaceful settlement, the aggression of the Federation left them with little option but to respond in kind. However, mankind's enemies were not only within. The Gaizok, Zerevia, Eldar, Aldebaran, and Fallen Angels, all external foes, represented a greater threat to be guarded against. Even greater foes lurked in the shadows of the world as well. Amidst it all, some perceived the flow of world events and made preparations for their next moves. Among them were the New Earth Federation, the Zaft of the Moon Race, the Kirim, the Aman, and others, like I think it's Chirim, but we'll see. In the world of chaos, human life stood poised on the edge of a knife. To see tomorrow, one must first survive today. To preserve today's lives for that tomorrow was the reason for which they all fought. Hey, now, how you doing? And so, root and split in time. So here's Bright and Camille aboard the Argama having a chat, and Bright's telling everybody that we'll be secretly cooperating with the Chimera Squad from here on out, because we had no reason to refuse, really. They may not be helping us. It's Roberto. They may not be helping us directly, but everyone thinks it's good that there are people inside the Federation Army that desire this sort of reform. Quattro agrees and says that with this we can widen our scope of operations. Apolly asks what's we're going to do right now, Chief. And Bright says that in accordance with our directions from Dorandal and Blex, Blex being the Eggs leader, we're going to head to the Pacific Ocean. We've got to assist Zaf's advance while also fighting alien and Titan assets in the area. And then Rako remembers the area has been close to the southern part of Gallia, the opposite of what I said, the southern part, and with a high concentration of Trappars. And with that in mind, Quattro says Dorandal is trying to get in touch with Gecko State. And what the Minerva, Shin's asking Talia why Dorandal is so concerned about the Gecko State. And Talia figures that what we saw in Belforest is probably the reason. The old Seven Swell. Luna's amazed that what she saw back then, and Talia's like, yep, a similar outbreak happened on the Promised Land planet, but no one really gets why. We do know that when this happened there, it was a global calamity, the Summer of Love. And according to the legends of that world, it was only stopped because Adrock Thurston sacrificed his life. Shin's like, well, how the hell did he do that then? Jeez! Is it like an on-off switch for Trappar outbreaks? And Talia's like, unfortunately, even the people from the Promised Land don't know nothing. And then Ray figures that's where Dorandal wants to get info. And Talia's like, yep, that's right, Ray. From what we've gathered so far, this is the connection between Adrock Thurston and the Gecko State. And Luna's like, oh, I get it now. That's why we ordered to get in touch with the Gecko State and the information we're receiving from Leven. It'll be easier to track them. So the orders for the Minerva and the Argama, they'll form a joint task force with the God Sigma team and the Grand Knights and head to the Pacific Ocean. So after, oh geez, I'm going to be real busy with the logistical demands of all the super robots inside the Argama, because the King Bill's not going to be here. And then Shin, inwardly, is like, damn, in the Pacific Ocean might mean we have to go near Orb. And so here's Julie in the hangar, giving the Minerva mechanics the rundown how to repair their units. And here's Vino, who's like, I don't really get it, but I'll learn it by doing, it's fine. Toshia and the others say they can do small repairs, but anything bigger than that needs a professional touch. Here's Yolan. He's like to get to work because it's not always, like, very often they get to fiddle with real super robots. Haruna wonders if it's alright for us to stay here because, you know, they were going with the Galia team, but Mizuki says Sam wanted to make another stop by Trinity City before anything else went down. And Leal is obviously like, what about my uncle? And they just, don't worry about it, Lil. Whatever it is the Japanese government might be up to, there's no way Sandman will get taken out. And Toga's like, yeah, Age is right. Come on. And she's like, oh, that's good. And she relaxes a bit. But Aina's going to be packing all their stuff and moving it to their new rooms aboard the Frieden. And she'll have the help of Brigitta, Anya, and Cecile. There's Anya, who's got the little bear hair. Here's Cecile, who don't like her at all. And Brigitte, who I also do not like at all. They're gonna be busy now. So Brigitta, makes it a point to tell AG that he's going to have to do his own laundry. And then he's like, oh, geez, I'll be honest, I forgot that you were here cleaning up after us all this time. So the main thing where I'm like, I basically want gravity on in every game because the robots are cool and the guys are cool. But if it was in a new game, they'd like have everybody drawn a bit weird. And I don't want to see Mizuki drawn a bit weird. I don't want to even see her drawn normal. But definitely not weird. So here's on the Frieden, Jules telling Shingo to stay right behind the Agama and the Minerva. Should be no problem because the Frieden can like cruise across the ocean. It's got little hover feet. And Tonya thought they were going to go with the Iron Gear, but you know the Frost Brothers, so we should hang out with Zaft. And Jules got another reason. He said that the Agama came from a world with new types. And Sarah is like, oh, maybe it's like our world. And Jamil doesn't know if there's a connection. He doesn't think it's just a coincidence. And Tifa is deep in thought, as she is often want to be. On board the Iron Gear, though, she's just filled up all their food bought from the Glomar, and Shia made sure to give them a nice discount. But they are merchants, so Hazelman offers to have the combat-oriented ships lead the charge into potential battles. And the supplies being gathered here is going to help Japan sealing. But Borome reminds him that the main problem is you've got no idea where the hell they are. Exactly, I'm glad someone gets it. If I'm going to have to look at it, I might as well be an excellently technically executed example of. So Mimsy though can help with that though. Her Romanian contacts reported a group matching the description crossing Siberia right now. And Maria heard this residential unit's huge, so there must be a lot of people, and Koji's like, wow, all those people want to live in Japan, that's amazing. So I asked if Koji has a problem with that, and he's like, I'm just surprised that my people want to move to my country. And everyone's like, oh, it's amazing, let's go there. And Goli says that back in Wolgusk, they were told ancient tales of living in the place, and eventually the people grew the desire to go there. And then Kappe also wants to go back to Japan, so he'll be working with the Exodus. And once they find Japan sealing, they can tow with the King Beale and get to Japan real quick. And Ajuda's glad because, you know, Japan's still their home even in this world, it'd be good to go back. And then Mims is like, okay, but you need to be prepared because your government has proclaimed itself independent from the Federation, closing its borders and denying entrance to any outsiders. And then Kappe's like, don't worry, tailed girl. Japan is our country, so I'm just going to walk right in there. No problem. Cafe living in a pre-Brexit world. And Mimsy's like, wait, tailed girl? Like, tailed gal? What? And then Keiko's like, Kappe! Mind your manners! And then Kay says, that's no way to talk to a lady. You gotta have more delicacy. And Kappe's like, hey, bud. I'm not a ladies' man like you, bro. Gwen's gonna keep following the moon race in Galia, and he asks Laura, is it alright with that? And Lauren's like, are you gonna fight the moon race? And Gwen's like, no, I want to negotiate with them. I want to reclaim Inglesa from the Federation. And he came to Galia and just lays out his plan of coming together with troops. And down there's Kiel. He's like, oh, alright, sure, fine. Mihail says Sidney's mountaineers are already hard at work scouting Galian territory, and Gwen's like, yeah, keep them on watch, because Gain said the Siberian Railroad makes their own excavation parties, and he just hopes that Sid digs up something decisive for the Siberian do. Go on. Adds that both he and Lily Bourgeon just want to kick the feds out of Louisiana, and to help her with that, he'll work with everybody. And then down as Kiel internally is like, eventually we're going to have to meet up with the moon race, and that'll be a chance to switch places back with Kiel. Kiel. And so, time for a final night stay before setting off. Hazemon apologises for his grandson's tail joke, and Shia's like, oh, it's fine. You've seen a lot of people come into this world, and despite the differences, we still laugh and cry together as fellow humans. Her antenna are just superficial differences, so Kappe's words don't bother her. And so instead of scolding him, how about you just, as one of this world's elders, just tell Kappe what I said about just being nice and good. Now it's fine. And he's like, oh, yeah, oh, sure thing, Messiah. And not just because the kid's his grandson, but as a way to thank her. And she's like, and also, we're traveling, bud, so you don't need to be so formal. Keep calling me Miss Shire all the time. He's like, oh, all right, I get it. I'll be counting on you from now on, Shire. And Gaines here to ask whether Random Mel what they're going to do now. We're going to go to the Pacific or go to Galia? And Rand's like, wait, I got to choose one or the other? And Gaines like, yeah, you should stick with one of the two teams if you want the best shot at finding more info about your missing boss. And Mel's like, yeah, Gainer's right, darling. And Rand's like, oh, yeah, elders should obey their kids when they grow old. And then Gainer's like, hey, I'm not one of your kids, though. But it's either follow the Gecko State in the Pacific Ocean or help the Exodus in Galia. And then they give you the list. So going to Galia gets you Zabungle, August, King Gainer, Zambot, Koji Maria, and the Turn A. And the Pacific Ocean gets you Gravion, Gundam, X, God Sigma, Destiny, Zeta Gundam, and then there's some other people. And secret-wise, you got to do the Galia route for a Rand specific thing. 2 specific things. We already failed the one that's gone the other route. But basically, we're going to be keeping the Galia route because, like, that's the one where all the Rand secrets are. So we're going to be picking the other one. We're going to be going to the Pacific first time. And so the rest of this stuff is roll paint. We'll cover next time when we get there. And Chiro's like, but why didn't you help with the Exodus? He's like, sorry, Chiro. I'm the heat. We'll see each other again. And so it's like stifling. Wow. Yeah, we'll say for now. Yeah, and then yeah. So, regardless of his feelings, rounds to clear one thing. He's sure Gaines doesn't find out. Yeah. He's there. He should be honest. Say he's putting his life on the line for Sarah, and Gaines like, whoa, what? Huh? And Sarah's like, more of that man talk. You're all pigs. He's like, it's not like that, Sarah. And Ren's like, oh jeez, things are gonna go nowhere fast with these bozos. And then I think they do a toast thing, but we'll figure it out next time. So, Durandal's just passed along Tali's information to Wong, and he's the Anaheim electronics rep for the AUG, and to Blex, this guy, who's the head of the AUG. And Wong wonders if he can trust this Levan general, because he could be pretending to be a trader to spy on our movements. And Durandal, he's like, yeah, maybe, but Blex says that if we consider how the AUG first came to be, it's not inconceivable that people like Laven's squad also exists. Wong thinks that trusting them is dangerous, though, and Blex is well aware of that as well. Expected Wong and his people to appreciate the offer, being the AUG's investors and all. And Durandal is like, yeah, the real question mark is who's given Laven his orders. If he's going to take the risk of contacting that someone directly. Blex thinks some of his old Federation contacts might track them down. No one tells Durandal to be careful. If he screws up, it's danger for all of Zafta and the AUG. So they leave to negotiate with the old Space Revolutionary Army, and Durandal will leave that to them. And he says that just as the humans of Earth banded together into the new Federation, we must also do the same. And Blex is like, to stop them from deciding the fate of the world, we've got no choice but to fight. So then Durandal's like, the fate of the world. But then this weirdo guy, who's this guy? It's Alex Dino. Wow. And Durandal's glad he's here, wondering if he's tired from the trip from Orb, passing through all the rivalry zones. And Durandal's heard he's resigned from his position as Kagali's bodyguard. And he says, I expect much from you, Alex Dino. Or rather, Athrun Zala. So, That lasted all of half a sentence, didn't it? Meanwhile, in Saint-Germain Castle, there's Marinia. The Japanese government has sent Sandman a missive, repeating their demands that he hands over his lands and property. Obviously, Twill is mad as hell that they'd make such a demand during this crisis. And Tessera, I think it seems a bit excessive to be doing something like this so soon after declaring themselves independent from the Federation. And Twill has also heard rumours that the opposition is being rounded up and sent somewhere. Marinia wonders if the government could be trying to gather firepower to challenge the feds. And Tessera remembers that there's also the various attacks from identified demons happening across the country, them Oni, and the government's response against them has just been to drag their heels, as like they do with everything. Raven suggests they should call the Grand Knights back, but Sandman refuses. Look at him, he's so beautiful and majestic and wide. He says there's still things they need to see before that. The Grand Knights need to learn more things. For the time being, the Saint-Germain people and the Sao Tome lab will have to deal with the situation by themselves. Raven's obviously still worried, but Sam's like, do not worry, my friend. When the time comes, we'll wipe away the darkness involving our country in one swift stroke. And then that's when Genfudo shows up and says, yep, righteous man as ever. Here's Cookie. So Cookie freaks out there's an intruder. And Sandman is like, no, he's an old friend, Cookie. And Fudo remembers Kleiner Sandman, back from when he was the styled Count of Saint-Germain. And Raven is like, wow, he knew Sandman for such a long time ago. And Sandman's glad he was able to come over despite the closed borders. And Fudo says, his movements are like the flow of water, impossible to fully contain. Shame he didn't make it here sooner, though, because he just missed the cherry tree season. And Fudo says, this is always next year to enjoy sake under the blossoms. He asks about what's going on in the Sao Tome labs, and Sandman says they've recently perfected a new invention, which they're going to use to keep Japan safe from the demons. Or at least the best they can while alone. And with that in mind, Fudo has a message to be passed to Dr. Sao Tome, and he asks him to teach Dava's newborn chicks. And Sandman and Fudo both know that the demons and the fallen angels are destined to be defeated by an unbreakable trio of arrows. And ain't that just perfect?